Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are going to be making this beautiful sweater. So let's begin. For the materials, I'm going to be using this 3.5mm crochet hook. I am using this yarn. It's a 4-ply yarn. It's a thin yarn, but I will double it to form a DK weight. So any DK weight you have you can use, or a chunky, just match it with your hook size. So these are the measurements that I'm going to be using for my sweater. The full length is 22 inches and the bandwidth or the cuff is 2 inches. So to get our beginning chain, we are going to take 22 minus 2 inches and we are going to have 20, and our beginning chain is going to be 20 inches long. Okay, you can totally adjust this to whatever you want, the bandwidth or the full length of your sweater. And the width of our sweater will be 18 inches because you're working it into 2 panels. So my bust measurement is 36 divided by 2, I get 18 inches. So you take the bigger measurement between your bust and your waist. So when you measure, whichever is bigger between your bust or your waist is what you're going to be using to make the sweater. And we are going to be making this sweater in like 3 panels, and I'm going to divide them like this so you can understand what I mean by panels. So this will be the first, the second and the third panel. So the first and the third panels are at the shoulder, and the second panel will be shaping the neck. So to determine how big each panel is going to be, I'm going to take my 18 inches and divide them by 3 since there are 3 panels, and I'm going to get 6. So each panel is going to be 6 inches thick, wide or wide. You can totally adjust this to how you want it. If you want a wider neck, adjust the second panel, remove a few inches from the first and third panel and add them to the second panel. If you want a wider shoulder, just or a smaller neck, remove a few inches from the second panel and add them to the shoulder, the first and the third panel. And then with the is this space that will be skipping to shape the neck, and this is like the neck depth, and it's going to be 3 inches. And you can totally adjust this. If you want a shorter neck or a longer neck, you can adjust that. So to begin, I am going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 115 stitches. So remember, our chain is going to be the full length minus the bandwidth, and I'm chaining 115, which is an odd number. So your chain should be an odd number, just any odd number. So I have finished my chain, and you're going to go into the second chain from the hook, and you're going to do a single crochet, and then in the next stitch you're going to do a half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's a half double crochet. In the next stitch you're going to do a slip stitch, then a half double crochet in the next, and then a slip stitch in the next. So in this row, or rather the whole pattern, we will be alternating half double crochet stitches and slip stitches. So the next one is a half double, and the next is a slip stitch. If you're not familiar with the stitches, kindly familiarize yourself with them first before getting into the pattern. So a slip stitch in the next. So you are going to be alternating these two stitches until the end of the row, and this is how the pattern looks like. The back is a bit bumpy, which makes our pattern to have some kind of texture. So I'm going to meet you at the end, and I have 3 stitches remaining. It's a half double crochet in the next stitch, and a slip stitch in the next stitch. Now in the very last stitch you are going to do a single crochet, and this is how our pattern is going to be. The first and the last stitch will always be a single crochet, like that. And then you're going to chain one and turn your work. As they said, the first stitch is a single crochet. Now this will be a little different, and this is how we'll be working the pattern. You see the back loop of the stitches, you're going to be working in the back loops only. It's like the loop on the outside or the opposite side of you. So you're going to go into the back loop and do a half double crochet. So the first stitch after a single crochet is always a half double crochet, and then you're going to do a slip stitch in the back loop only. In the next back loop, you're going to do a half double crochet. In the next stitch, do a slip stitch in the back loop only. So we're just kind of repeating this until we reach the end. A half double crochet in the next back loop, a slip stitch in the next back loop. So repeat this, and I'm going to meet you at the end to show you how to do the end. So I have 3 stitches remaining. The next is a half double crochet, and then the next is a slip stitch in the back loop, and then we're going to do a single crochet in the very last stitch, but we are going to go into both loops because we want our beginning and our end to be a bit firmer. So chain one, go into both loops and do a single crochet. In the next stitch in the back loop, do a half double crochet. And in the next, do a slip stitch, a half double in the back loop of the next, and a slip stitch in the back loop of the next. So we are kind of repeating row 2, and you're going to repeat these until you get the width of the first panel. And this is my first panel, so I have a total of 6 inches. Yeah, so you're going to repeat that until you finish the first panel, depending on the size that you have. You have 7 inches, 8 inches, 5 inches. Repeat that until you reach the width of the first panel. And this is how it looks like. I already finished one part of the sweater. So this first part is the first panel, and the middle part is the second panel, and this is the space I'm talking about. We are skipping for shaping the neck. And then you are going to work the second panel, and then you're going to work the third panel, which will be the other side of the shoulder. Now to count your rows, with your work facing the wrong side, you just count the bumps. Each bump contains of 2 rows. So I have 15 bumps, so 15 times 2, that's 30 rows. So my 6 inches is 30 rows. So to work on the next, you're going to work the rows as usual. So single crochet in the first stitch, half double in the next, and now this is the first row for the second panel. So continue with the with the pattern until you have a total of 95 stitches. We are going to be skipping 18 stitches from counting from the top, so you can mark your 18th stitch so it will be easier to identify where you're going to be stopping. So I skipped 18 stitches. Now I have that's my 94th stitch, so this is my 95th, which is a slip stitch. Now my 96th stitch is a single crochet, and I'm going to go into both loops. And the remaining stitches I'm going to skip. So I chain one and turn my work. All those stitches you're going to be skipping them. Chain one, turn your work, and work the pattern as usual. A single crochet in the first stitch, a half double crochet in the back loop of the next, a slip stitch in the back loop only in the next stitch, and repeat this until you finish your second panel. So once you finish your second panel, the piece from the beginning is supposed to measure 12 inches since it's 6 plus 6, which makes 12, and this is mine, having finished the second panel too. So now we're going to be working on the third panel, and you finish your row at the bottom, and now once you finish your row at the bottom, the third panel, you start from the bottom going up, and this is me towards the end, towards the place where we did we are adding chains to add the neck area. So this is the last stitch. It's supposed to be a single crochet, but we are going to work it as normal, a half double crochet in the back loop only, so we can add the chains that we skipped to cover for the shoulder panel. So since we skipped 18 stitches, we're going to add 1 for the turning chain. So we are going to chain 19. So chain a total of 19. Depending on the number of stitches you skipped, you're going to add 1, which is going to act as the turning chain. Okay, so I'm chaining 19, and then in the second stitch from the hook, we are going to begin the first row of the third panel. So I'm going to do a single crochet in the second stitch from the hook, a half double crochet in the next, a slip stitch in the next. So we are repeating the pattern as usual. I'm going to meet you at this point. So I'm towards the end, and the next one is a slip stitch, and this is the very first chain that I did. It's easier to skip, so you can mark it with a stitch marker. So this is the very first chain, so we are going to do a half double crochet in that stitch. And since now we are doing the stitches in the rows from the previous, so we're going to do a slip stitch in the next back loop, a half double crochet in the next back loop, a slip stitch in the next back loop, and you're going to repeat these until you reach the width of your third panel. So you're going to have a total of 18 inches once you are done by the third panel. So I am done, and now I'm going to show you how to join the seams, and you're going to place your work right side facing each other. So this is the right side and this is the right side, so they are facing each other. And now we are going to sew the shoulder seam shut, and I'm sewing it with a needle. You can choose to sew it with a crochet hook and use the single crochet stitch or the slip stitch, but I prefer doing it with a needle because it's less bulky. I find using a crochet you can have a bulky seam, which is what I'm trying to avoid. And now we are going to sew the side seams together, and you're going to leave a space for your armhole, and my armhole I'm going to leave 7 inches length, like that. So measure your 7 inches and mark it, and make sure you have an equal number of stitches on the back panel and the front panel, so your side seam is going to be even. You don't want side to be a bit longer or shorter than the other. And I'm still going to sew these with a needle. Like I said, you can totally use a crochet hook if you prefer that, but I prefer the needle. It's a bit neater and lighter. So you can sew these with the loop stitch like I'm doing, or you can use the mattress stitch. It takes more time, but I find it to be more neater than the loop stitch. So you're going to sew that until you reach your marker. Like I already did one end, so I'm just going to show you how it looks like. It's quite neat. You can't even tell there's a seam, especially on the right side. You can tell there's a seam there, and that's how a needle does it neater. And now we are going to make the sleeves, and you're going to turn your work inside out, and we are going to be working joining our yarn at the armpit area. So, and I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook because I want my stitches to be tighter, because this is going to be a winter sweater. I don't want any cold passing through easily. So you're going to join your yarn and do a chain 1, and then you're going to do a double crochet in the same space, and you're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch around. So you're going to spot the space for the next stitch and do a double crochet in the next stitch. So I have a total of 82 stitches. Just make sure that you have an even number once you're done by the end of the row. If you find you have more or less, you can minus 1 or add 1. So just make sure you have an even number, and I'm going to meet you at the end. So I'm towards the end, and I'm going to join the slip stitch on top of the first double crochet. And you're not joining in the chain space because we want our join to be as thin with little space as possible. So chain 1, and in the same space do a double crochet. So you're going to add 1 double crochet on top of each stitch, and you're going to repeat this for the entire row. And once you're done, you're going to join to the beginning double crochet on top of the double crochet with a slip stitch, and then begin the next row. So repeat that until you have the length of the sleeve that you need, mostly just a few inches above your wrist, so we can add the cuff or the armband. And since I'm doing a different color, I'm going to be joining the color now. If you're doing a similar color, just continue with the pattern. If you're not changing colors, that is. Since I'm changing colors, this is how I change my colors. I change them as I slip stitch. So now to do the armband or the cuff, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to single crochet 2 together. So insert your hook in the first stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook in the next. You have 3 loops on your hook, and yarn over, pull through all the 3. So that's a single crochet 2 together, meaning that we are joining 2 stitches into 1. And as you work this cuff, if you find it to be a bit smaller, you can do 1 single crochet 2 together, and then a normal single crochet in the next stitch, so to make it just a little bit wider. Or you can change your hook size to a bigger hook size if you don't want a thinner scarf. So I am towards the end, and I'm going to slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet in the back loop of the first stitch of the same stitch that I slip stitched. So single crochet in every stitch around in the back loop only. So for the entire cuff, we'll be working in back loops only. And towards the end, I'm not going to join with a slip stitch. I'll just continue working in a spiral. So you're just going to single crochet in the back loop only until you reach the very end, or until you reach the length of the scarf that you want. And the very last row of the cuff, I did a single crochet row in both loops, so just to define that edge a little bit more. So you continue that until you reach the length of the cuff that you want. And now we are going to do the neck. And as you can see, my hook size changed. I have a blue hook, and it's a 4mm crochet hook, and this is because I want my neck to be drapey, my scarf to be drapey. So we are going to do single crochets all around, so 1 single crochet in each stitch around. But for the neck area, the part for the second panel, you're going to be doing it a little bit different. But on this part, you do 1 single crochet in each stitch. this is the part where we skipped the stitches so we can do the second panel. So 1 single crochet in each stitch, and I'm going to meet you there to show you how to do the second panel. So spot the bumps, and on top of each bump do a single crochet. Skip the space between the bumps, and on the next bump do a single crochet. On top of the next bump do a single crochet. So we are not doing any single crochets in between the bumps. This is because we want our neck to be just slightly tighter on the neck. So on the next bump do a single crochet, and you're going to repeat this for the entire row until you reach the end. So I'm towards the end, and I'm going to be changing colors. So I slip stitch to the first single crochet, and as I slip stitch I change colors as well. So now I am going to chain 2, and then I'm going to turn our work, and the neck we're going to be working on the inside, so it might feel a bit weird or look a bit weird, but we are working it on the inside, and I'll explain why in a minute. So you're going to do double crochets in each stitch. So in every stitch you add 1 double crochet until you reach the end of the row. So we are working the neck in a similar way that we did for the arms. So I'm just going to cut these to get it out of the way. So 1 double crochet in each stitch around. I didn't count the number of stitches because it doesn't really matter, because we are not doing anything in multiples. So whichever number of stitches you have for the cowl neck is okay. So like I said, we are working on the inside. So repeat that until you reach the end, and we are not turning. So slip stitch in the first double crochet. So chain 1 and do a double crochet in the same stitch, double crochet in the next, and 1 double crochet in each stitch around until you reach the end of the row. Then slip stitch and repeat the pattern until you reach the length of the cowl neck that you need. And we are working on the inside, and this because the scarf we're going to fold on itself, so we want the right side to be on top, and that's why we are working on the inside and not turning. Okay, so now we are done with that, and we are going to do the bottom cuff or the band for the waist. And I joined my yarn where I had where I seamed the side seam. So join your yarn at the side seam like this, and chain 1. If you're going to change colors, do your first row with the same color as the body. Then on top of the bump you're going to do a single crochet, and we are doing 2 single crochets between 2 bumps. So just spot the bumps. So on top, after the bump, do a single crochet, and on top of the bump do a single crochet. So at the middle of the bump do a single crochet. On top of the bump of the next bump, that is, do a single crochet, and before the next bump do a single crochet. On top of the bump do a single crochet, in the middle do a single crochet. On top of the next bump do a single crochet, in the middle do a single crochet. So we're just going to repeat these until you reach the end, and we are working the cuff or the band for the waist in a similar way that we did for the arms. It's no different. So you are going to work single crochets in the back loops, and we are working in a spiral, so we are not joining the rows. So working a spiral in a single crochet in each stitch, remember in the back loops only, because you want to form those lines, working in the back loops that forms. So continue this until you reach the length of the cuff that you need. And my work is done, and I did a similar one in plain color, so you can see the difference of how it looks when it's a plain color and when it's multicolored. And I feel they're both beautiful, and they are nice, and it's a simple pattern. If you know the stitches, how to do the stitches, you can totally hack this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You can see my neck is quite drapey. That's because I used a bigger hook size. And you can see for the waist here, I did a row of single crochets in both loops, so to edge it perfectly. So if you liked this video, please share, like, comment, and if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. I would love to see what you come up with. If you do, kindly tag me on my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just on my social. I'd love to see what you come up with, and don't forget to share with your friends. And for now, bye bye till the next video.